As well as his great songs, Robert Burns wrote hundreds of fantastic poems. His greatest and his most favourite poem was a poem called Tam O'Shanter, about a man coming home from the pub on his horse, being chased by ghosts and witches. This is Tam O'Shanter. When chapman billies leave the street and drouthy neighbours meet, as market days are wearing late and folk begin to tack the gate, and we sit boozing at the nappy, getting fou and unca happy. We think on the lang Scots miles, the mosses water slaps and styles that rang between us and our hame, where sits our sulky sullen dame, gathering her brows like gathering storm, nursing her wrath to keep it warm. This truth fand honest Tam O'Shanter, as he for air one night did canter, old air when near a tune surpasses for honest men and bonny lasses. O Tam, had thou been sae wise and ta'en thy ain wife Kate's advice, she told thee well, thou was a skellum, a blethering, blustering, drunken blellum, that fae November till October, market day thou wasna sober. The tilka melder wi' the miller, thou drank as lang as thou had siller, and every nag was caught a shoeing, the smith and ye got roaring fooing. And at the Lord's house, even on Sunday, you drank wi' Captain Jean till Monday. She prophesied that late or soon you'd be found deep drowned and down, or catched by warlocks in the murk, by Alloway's old haunted kirk. Oh, gentle dames, it gars me greet, to think how many counsels sweet, how many lengthened sage advises, the husband fae his wife despises. But tale, one night Tam had get planted unca right, fast by an ingle, bleezing finely, with Raymond Swats that drank divinely. At his elbow, Suitor Johnny, his ancient, trusted, drouthy crony. Tam lued him like a very brother. They'd been fou for weeks together. The night drave on with sangs and clatter, and aye, the ale was growing better. The landlady and Tam grew gracious, with favours, secret, sweet and precious. The suitor telt his queerest stories, the landlord's laugh, ha 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 ha, was ready chorus. The storm outside might roar and rustle. Tam didn't mind the storm a whistle. Care, mad to see a man sae happy, e'en one that drowned himself among the nappy. As bees flee hame with lades of treasure, the minutes had winged their way with pleasure. Kings may be blessed, but Tam was glorious, or all the ills of life victorious. But pleasures are like poppies spread. You sees the flower, and its bloom is shed, or like the snow falls on the river, a moment white, then it melts forever, or like the borealis race that flit, or you can point its place, or like the rainbow's lovely form, vanishing amidst the storm. Nae man can tell her time nor tide, the hour approaches, Tam must ride, that tour of night's black hearts the keystone, that dreary hour, Tam mounts his beast in, and second night he tacks the road in, as nae poor sinner was abroad in. The wind blew like it was blowing its last, the rattling showers rose in a blast, the speedy gleams of darkness swallowed, loud, deep and lang the thunder bellowed. That night a child might understand, the devil had business on his hand. Well mounted on his grey mare Meg, a better had never lifted leg, Tam skelpit on, through the dub and mire, despising wind and rain and fire, and holding fast his good blue bonnet, and crooning o'er some old Scotch sonnet, but glowering round, with prudent cares lest bogle catch him unawares. Kirk Alloway was drawing nigh, where ghaists and hoolits nightly cry. Soon he was past the ford, where in the snow the chapman smoored, and past the birks and the meikle stane, where drunken Charlie Bracksneck bane, through the winds and by the cairn where hunters find the murdered bairn, and near the thorns, a bin the well where Mungo's mother had hanged herself. Before him, doon poured all its floods. The Dublin storm roared through the woods, the lightning flashed from pole to pole, near and more near the thunder rolled, when glimmering through the groaning trees, Kirk Alloway seemed in a bleeze. Through ilka board the beams were glancing, and loud resounded mirth and dancing. Inspiring bold John Barleycorn, what dangers thou canst make us scorn, with tippenny, we fear evil, we ushka bear. Ha ha, we'll face the devil. The swat sair aimed in Tammy's noddle. He cared nae deals a boddle, but Maggie, she stood right sair astonished to by the heel and hand admonished. She ventured forward on the light, and wow! Tam saw an unca sight. Warlocks and witches in a dance, nay, cotillon Brit New France, but hornpipes, jigs, spies and reels put life and metal in their heels. A winnock bunker in the east sat old Nick, in shape a beast, a towsy tyke, black, grim, large, to gie the music was his charge. He screwed his pipes, and he gat them skirl, till roof and rafters all did diddle. Coffins stood round, like open presses, that showed the deed in their last dresses, and by some devilish cantrip slight, each one in its called horn held a light, by which heroic Tam was able to note upon the holy table a murderer's banes and gibbetairns, twa span lang wee unchrissant bairns, a thief you cut if you rape with his last gasp, his gab did gape, 5 tomahawks with blood red rusted, 5 scimitars with murder crusted, a garter that a babe had strangled, a knife a fellow's throat had mangled, with grey hairs yet stacked to the heft, with him his ain son a life bereft, 3 lawyers' turns turned inside out, with lies seemed like a beggar's clout, and 5 priests' hearts as black as muck lay stinking vile in every nook, with mair horrible an offer that even to name would be unlawful. As Tammy glowered, amazed and curious, the mirth and fun grew fast and furious. The piper loud and louder blew, the dancers quick and quicker flew. They reeled, they set, they clocks, they cleekit, till ilka carlin swat and reek it. Cooster duddies to the work and ilk blanket at it in their sack. Now Tam or Tammy they been queens all plump and strapping in their teens. Their sacks instead of creasy flannin being snow white 1700 linen. These breeks of mine, my only pair that yans were plush of good blue hair. I'd to give them off my hurdies for a blink of the bonny birdies. But whether beldams, old and droll, rig widdy hags would speen a foal, louping and flinging on a crummock, it's a wonder it didn't turn your stomach. But Tam kent what was went fu brawly. There was one winsome wench and well that night and listened on the core. Like after Kent and Carrick show for many a beast he did. She'd shot, and perished many a bonny boat, and shook baith meikle corn and beer, and she'd kept the countryside in fear. Her cutty sarco, paisley harnet as a lassie she had worn, and longitude was sorely scanty, it was her best and she was vanty. Little Kent, her reverend granny, that sack she'd cough for her wee nanny, with 12 pound Scots was all riches, would ever have graced a dance of witches. But here, my muse her wingman cour, such flicks are far beyond my power, to sing how Nanny lap and flang a supple jawed she was and strang, and how Tammy stood like een bewitched and thought he's very een. Enriched, even Satan glowered and fidged fu fain and hocht and blew with micht and main, the first yin caper, then another. Tam tint his reason all together, and roars out, "Well done, Cutty Sark!" And in an instant all went dark. Now scarcely had Maggie rallied when out the hellish legion sallied, as bees buzz out with angry flight when plundering herds assail their bike, or open pussy's mortal foes when pop, she starts afore the nose, as eager runs the market crowd when "Catch the thief!" resounds aloud. So Maggie runs, the witches follow him in an eldritch screech and hollow. O Tam, you'll get thy fern, and hell will roast you like a hern. In vain, Kate awaits thy coming, soon Kate'll be a woeful woman. But do, thy speed your utmost Meg, and win the keystone of the brig, for without them a tail may toss, a running stream they dare nae cross. But ere the keystone, Meg could make the faint a tail she had to stake, for Nanny, far before the rest, hard on noble Maggie pressed, and flew at Tam with fury settle, but little was she Maggie's mettle. Ace spring brought off her maester hail, but left a hint, her ain grey tail. The carlin had caught her by the rump, and left puir Maggie scarce a stump. Now, who this tale of truth shall read, ilk man and mother's son, tak heed. When e'er to party you are inclined, and Cutty Sark from in your mind, Think, you may buy the joys o'er dear. Just remember Tam O'Shanter's mare.